She used to tell me Chris was the man who taught her what betrayal felt like, the one she measured every red flag against for the rest of her life. So when I finally understood what she'd been doing behind my back for weeks, I didn't feel a rage. I felt something stranger, something quieter. I realized she hadn't spent the last 10 years running from him. She'd just been waiting long enough to become him. It started small. She ran into Chris at the mall, completely by accident, by the food court near the parking entrance. She came home that night almost glowing, telling me about it the way you tell someone about a song you used to love. He looks so different, she said, laughing a little. Can you believe it's been, 12 years? I said it was funny. I meant it. She'd always been honest about Chris, brutally honest, so I had no reason to feel the small twist in my stomach. I told myself it was nothing. People run into their past sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. But over the next week, I started noticing things I couldn't quite name. She'd take her phone into the other room to text. She'd smile at the screen and then put it face down the second I walked in. Small things, the kind of things you talk yourself out of seeing. So I asked her directly, sitting across from her in the living room, have you talked to Chris since the mall? She didn't even look up from the couch cushion she was folding a blanket on. No, she said. Just hi, how are you? That was it. I believed her. That's the part that still sits in my chest like a stone. I believed her because she had never given me a reason not to. A week later, I was in the hallway, charging my phone on the side table when hers lit up on the armrest beside her. Instagram. A name. Chris H. Just for a second, the message preview flashed across the screen before she grabbed it and turned it over. I didn't go through her phone. I didn't ask her unlock codes or read anything I wasn't shown. I just stood there in the hallway light and asked her plainly, why is Chris messaging you? She got quiet. Then she said the words, I think I'll remember for the rest of my life. It's not a big deal. We're just catching up. You're being insecure. I want you to understand something. This wasn't some stranger from her past. This was the man she described over and over across years of our marriage as the reason she knew what she never wanted. Again, she told me how he lied to her, how he cheated on her in her own apartment, how she wasted 3 years of her 20s hoping he'd become someone he never became. She used those stories like a compass. She'd say, I know what real love looks like now because I know what that was. And now she was sitting on our couch in our home, defending secret messages to that same man as harmless. I stood in that living room and gave her one choice: transparency completely right now, or I was done. No anger in my voice, just stillness, the kind of stillness that scares people more than yelling ever could. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than anything she could have said. Then she unlocked her phone and handed it to me. I sat on the arm of the couch and read messages going back almost 3 weeks. They weren't harmless. They weren't catching up. They were soft, aching, intimate in a way that has no business existing between two people who are supposedly just old friends. She told him she sometimes wondered what their life would have looked like. He told her he never stopped thinking about her either. There were voice messages I didn't listen to. I didn't need to. The words on the screen were already a confession. I remember setting the phone down on the coffee table very gently, like it might break. I remember her crying, saying it didn't mean what it looked like. I remember not saying much at all because here's the thing I couldn't stop thinking about. Sitting there in our living room with the porch light flickering through the window, she didn't fall for a stranger. She didn't get swept up by someone new. She went back in secret to the exact person she spent years warning herself and me never to trust again. The same man whose betrayal she used as her definition of what love should never look like. She became the lesson she swore she'd learn. I packed a bag 2 days later. I remember standing in the driveway, the cold air on my face, watching the porch light shrink in the rearview mirror as I pulled away. There was no scene, no shouting match in the yard, just the quiet certainty that I had given everything to a woman who once told me exactly how this story ends and walked into it anyway. I'm at a park most evenings now, the same bench, watching people walk their dogs in the last bit of daylight. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just aware, in a way I never wanted to be, that the people who teach us the deepest lessons about betrayal are sometimes only rehearsing for the day they perform it themselves. She spent years telling me what Chris took from her. In the end, she gave him the exact same thing. Have you ever watched someone become exactly what they always said they never would? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone.